Okay, welcome to the 14th hole today for the second of our on-course lockdown lesson videos. And we're here where we're about 50 metres short of the 14th green, and it's a position that a lot of members are familiar with. Owing to the nature of this hole and the contours, your ball often rolls down here for your second shot, or maybe your third shot comes down here. And it's a shot that we often get requests to do videos on because it's a one that people have a bit of difficulty with. And when Craig and I are teaching in the teaching room, we see that quite often. We see a lot of, we can't see where the ball finishes because of the wall in the teaching room, but we can see the body language after the shot, and we can also see the way the shot's played. And what we see a lot is we see some very, very heavy divots and a lot of fat shots, a lot of balls that seem to end up in the bunker, or sometimes we do see them end up short of the bunker. So today I'd just like to talk a little bit about, how we can deal with this situation and some of the unique things that apply to this shot that might not apply to other shots. So the first thing here is that some really quite simple, two simple things here. This shot plays a little bit longer than what the yardage would suggest. We've got 50 metres here. I would say that you need to add about 10 metres extra to this shot, just owing to the fact that the green is so far above us. That's the first reason we've got to add some yardage to this shot. The second thing is that because we're hitting on an upslope, the ball tends to go higher on an upslope and comes up a little bit shorter. So we need to add a little bit of yardage for that factor as well. So those two factors, we add about 10 metres, and that will mean that just with those two factors, you might take a little bit more club or take a slightly longer swing. And also just remembering here that if we're going to err on this shot, we'd rather err a little bit long rather than short. It's that bunker there that really can destroy someone's round if you go in there. So we want to err a little bit towards the back of the green. Now, in terms of what I mentioned before about hitting the ball a little bit fat and big divots, what we've got here is we've got those two factors of the upslope, and the second factor is what we talked about on the second hole last week, and that is the grain of the grass. Now you see if I drag the club here towards the green, we've got the same effect we had last week on the second, and that is that the club is really sort of jagging against the grass because the grass is growing in that direction. And as we discussed last week, if you hit the ground behind the ball when the grass is growing in the opposite direction, that's going to cause the club to dig into the ground very abruptly, and you're going to hit a fat shot almost straight away. So we need to factor that in when we're playing this shot. The second thing here is this upslope. So when we're hitting on an upslope, our weight tends to want to fall back. All right, now if you're hitting a shot here and your weight falls back, that's going to cause you to hit the ground behind the ball. And if we have a combination of the grass growing into us, the grain growing into the direction we're hitting, and we fall backwards, those two things are going to cause us to hit a really, really heavy shot, big divot behind the ball, and the ball won't go very far. And that's what we see that's what Craig and I see when we're watching from the teaching room. So to counter that, you just got to make sure, same thing we did on the second last week, make sure that as you hit the shot, you feel like you are sort of working your weight almost up the slope, right, which is sort of a bit unnatural. You'll tend to want to fall backwards. So as you come into impact, have a very conscious sort of feeling of just working your weight and transferring your weight forwards. And hopefully that will stop you from hitting the ground behind the ball. You'll catch the ball first and you'll hit a good shot. One last little thing before I finish in terms of transferring that weight, just one added little thing here about the upslope. When we're hitting into an upslope, if we transfer the weight on a sort of on a level or a sort of a horizontal direction, we do have a little bit of a risk here of actually driving our weight into the slope and really getting a bit sort of steep and really digging into the ground. When you transfer your weight, I want you to feel like as you're transferring it, you're actually moving your weight a little bit upwards with the slope. It's only a subtle difference. So rather than moving your weight in this direction, I want you to feel like you move your weight slightly, just a slight upward motion with the slope. And that should cause the club not to dig quite so steeply into the turf. Okay, so hopefully I can demonstrate in a way that's worthy of this video. So here we go, about 50 meters, playing like 60, move forward, slightly up. That was pretty much spot on. And you can see there's only just a light brushing of the grass there. Okay, so I hope that helps with the third or fourth shot into the 14th green, and we'll be back.